Hello everyone, Alistair Gold here. Yes, another one of these. Pretty much because Spurs clearly are messing with me right now. The whole day off thing. It's not always the case. There's many times I've had days off where absolutely nothing has happened. But it does seem to be a weird thing about signing players. This week, I thought Tuesday and Wednesday, why not? They can be my days off. So they signed Vicario on Tuesday. They signed James Maddison on Wednesday. I was actually in the cinema today watching Indiana Jones, as you can maybe tell by the T-shirt. Yes, I wore an Indiana Jones T-shirt to the cinema. There was a guy in front of me who went full Indiana Jones costume, everything. The hat, I don't know whether he had a whip with him. I'd imagine you're not allowed that in the cinema. But he was fully decked out, fair play to him. But anyway, enough of Indiana Jones, which I really enjoyed. It's all about James Maddison right now. I thought I had to do another update, really, because I think I ended up my last video yesterday very much kind of saying, I was kind of almost reticent to say, there is a growing confidence that they're going to sign him. I may have even said something like, if they can kind of make some kind of breakthrough, it's going to happen quite quickly, you think, this one. And lo and behold, as often happens with my videos, so almost my videos are as bad as days off. If I do a video, something within the next 24 hours normally happens, sometimes even in the hours afterwards. I think I even joked about that at the end of the video as I signed off. And lo and behold, they made the breakthrough yesterday evening, and here we are, James Maddison, a Tottenham Hotspur player. And do you know what? This is probably one of the most exciting signings for me Spurs have made in the last few years, purely because it kind of harks back. Do you remember that time when everyone felt like Spurs needed a left winger? It was way back. It was in the Damien Comolli days when even he said, Spurs fans are obsessed with this. It kind of feels like Spurs haven't had this attacking, creative central midfielder in a few years. Haven't really ever replaced Christian Eriksen. Lo and behold, here we are, James Maddison. There's an irony at the fact that he's been brought in quickly in terms of he is here before pre-season has started. Yet it's a transfer that I said in the last video, they've wanted him since he was at Coventry. So we're talking years in the making, and you do wonder why it's taken them this long. But look, it's happened now. And he signed a contract till 2028, 5-year deal, same as Vicario, 26 years old, same as Vicario. The deal itself is phenomenal. Yes, you could say he's only got 12 months left, but for the quality of player he is, a £40 million deal is superb. I must admit, do you know what? When Leicester went down, I seriously thought, I'm sure Spurs will want him and they'll go in for him again. But I kind of thought, I'd imagine most of the top clubs are going to look at him and think, why not? Let's have him there, kind of thing. And as I said in the last video, I do think Newcastle getting Tonali and then kind of stepping back was massive for Spurs. It just left the pathway completely clear for them. And lo and behold, here he is. And obviously there's a Harry Winks element to it as well that we're going to talk about, which kind of makes the deal even better, even though they're separate deals. Very quickly spoiling what I'm about to say. You'll know this anyway. Harry Winks is set to go to Leicester in a deal that's worth about 10 million. Well, it is worth £10 million. So you could argue if you wanted to, although they're separate deals, Spurs have kind of got Maddison for 30 plus Winks, I guess is the way to put it. It's difficult. It's one of those where people will look at it and say they got Maddison for 30, and I've just said that, but you could also argue that Winks is an asset, as clubs call them, on their balance sheets, so technically it's £10 million of player that's gone, although I think that's a very good deal as well, but we'll talk about that in a moment. The thing that excites me most, not even the fact that this is the kind of player that Spurs have needed for a while. It's more the fact that he's a current England international. He's not even reached his prime yet. He's approaching his prime. He's a 26-year-old. We're not talking about buying a young player with potential like a 22, 23-year-old. And you're not talking about a player that's kind of past it. You are talking about that prime range to sign a player, really. That 25, 26, 27 is I guess it's what the big clubs do. That's the kind of age range they often go for. And Spurs have acted like a big club here. They have. Yes, you could argue they've brought the price down. It was originally 60. But I do feel like, again, with Newcastle dropping out, there were less options for Leicester to get a higher fee, and they kind of had to be a bit more realistic about it. And I think Harry Kane will relish playing alongside him. I really do. It is a statement signing for me. And yes, I have said that Harry Kane will relish playing alongside him because, talking to the club today and people within the club and people kind of, I guess, within the game and the feeling still, most importantly, from within the club, is that it is not in the plans to sell Harry Kane. So I know we're looking at the last 2 days they've spent about about £57 million, and obviously more to come as well. And that will lead some people to think it's a bit like Gareth Bale 2013. Are they spending money that they're, accounting for already that will come in? But I keep getting told that it's not the plan to sell Harry Kane. I still think that's such a strange one, the Bayern Munich stuff. But I'm not going to go into that again. We spoke about that. If you want to learn about that, if you want to hear about that, it's not like some wise teacher. If you want to hear about that, go back to the last video that was only yesterday. I think I've done 3 videos in about 4 or 5 days just because there's been so much going on at Spurs, which is a good thing. Honestly, sometimes I get to this point of the year and there's nothing happens. Do you remember those years when all the deals would come later in the window and I'd be just biding my time and writing and talking about possibilities, and now we're talking about actualities, and it's fantastic. So yeah. I mean, look at last season's stats for Maddison: 10 goals and 9 assists in 32 games. Bearing in mind that he had a couple of injuries last year that kept him out of a few weeks worth of a few matches. I mean, 32 games, obviously, including cup games. You're missing a fair few there. Hopefully, no more of those issues again this year. And obviously Leicester struggling as well. So they've got 19 goal involvements in 32 games. It's still pretty good going. Previous season, 18 goals and 12 assists, so 30 goal involvements. You can probably tell I'm genuinely so excited. Not that I pretend to be excited about signings, but with this one, there's just this kind of real buzz around it. As long as he can stay injury-free, it's a massive cog in the Postecoglou system. Someone pointed that out on one of the comments. I was talking about cogs and machines. I didn't even notice that Postecoglou has got cog in his name. It was perfect and I completely missed it. Maddison's very exciting. As I said yesterday, which sounds so weird, perfect for the number 8 role, I think, in a midfield 3, but also perfect if you want to play him in the attacking 3 as well, in a 4-3-3 or in a 4-2-3-1. Can play in 3 different roles, really. Can play in a push in the midfield too. You probably wouldn't want him there in a 4-2-3-1, but he could play there in a push, but he could also, in a 4-2-3-1, play sentry as a number 10, or he can play on the right. Yeah, fantastic signing. I just literally before I came on and did this, I saw he did a little video saying, "Come on, you Spurs," and all that. Obviously, there's the stuff about the historic tweets and things like that. It's one of those things. I'm very wary of kind of really going too much into what people say when they're kids and stuff like this. We all do really daft stuff, and we say things, and people don't understand social media. That kind of comes back to haunt you in any walk of life. Even just in normal jobs, employers now will do a proper social media search. I just thought it was quite funny. He did that little video saying, "Come on, you Spurs," and all this sort of stuff. I know they all do that. But yeah, and to be honest, a lot of Spurs fans and Spurs reporters like myself have been criticising the club a lot anyway, so it's not like it's anything different. But yes, they weren't pleasant tweets. Kind of have to refer to them. And it'd be interesting to see on the tour whether it is brought up and whether he speaks about them at all. Again, I'm sure he'll just say, "I was a kid and it was a silly thing to do." And we've seen it on social media. People get angry and say things or silly on social media and say things they would never say in normal life. And it goes into abuse, and it goes into even worse forms of abuse as well. But yeah, enough about the bad stuff. It's very, very minor in terms of, like I say, a kid doing silly stuff. We're talking about a very, very, very good player. Huge addition at Spurs. The competition will just increase exponentially. It's fantastic. Still hasn't confirmed a shirt number. While we got Vicario's numbers 13 yesterday, with Maddison, nothing yet. Obviously, Harry Winks heading off to Leicester. That will open up the number 8 shirt. I would, if I were to guess, and this is purely a guess, don't run out there and get a shirt done or anything, I would imagine Basuma would probably take that shirt. Bearing in mind he was number 8 at Brighton. Maddison has been number 10 at Leicester. Yes, I know that's Harry Kane's number. I've been intrigued to see kind of, maybe they're just waiting to see what kind of numbers open up for him. And what ones are there come the end of the window. But terrific signing. Really exciting signing. And as I say, a statement signing. I think that's the biggest thing for me. I mean, you could probably say last season Richarlison was a big signing, £60 million player. But there was always a feeling, certainly with me, maybe not other people, but I always felt he was coming in to increase competition and was probably not going to get in your first choice starting 11 if you were going to pick it. Whereas I feel with Maddison, bang, straight in there. Absolute starting 11 player. He's just going to be supplying the ammunition for those front players. And himself as well. He's going to score goals. And in the Postecoglou system, he's got the energy, he's got the work rate, he's got the versatility. He will, no doubt, as Vicario has, he'll have spoken to Postecoglou. Postecoglou was in Hotspur Way today, getting in there, starting to get work done already, and clearly would have spoken to Maddison, but you'd imagine would have had a chat with him beforehand as well, just to kind of sell him on the move. It's a really exciting signing. It is. Harry Winks, obviously speaking about Harry Winks as well. Again, £10 million is pretty good for a player in his position in the last year of his contract as well. It was the right time to move on. I know there were some people saying, and I kind of agree in a way, that he might have worked really well in a Postecoglou system in that midfield 3, sweeping up maybe as the pivot, the number 6 player. But I just feel it was the right time. It was the right time for him to go and make sure he gets regular football. I think I said in the last video, while I may be surprised he didn't take up a Premier League move, which I think probably would have come for him, I can definitely understand the lure of Leicester as a big side. Obviously only recently Premier League champions, FA Cup winners, and I'm pretty sure that he will bounce straight back up. And they will bounce straight back up and be a Premier League team again, probably the following season. And in terms of Harry Winks, I think he will boss it in the Championship. I think he'll be really good for them there. And then within a year's time, he'll be back in the Premier League and he'll be hopefully a regular starter again. I think he just needed a reset. I think he did very well at Sampdoria in the second half of the season once he'd had his ankle surgery. He'll take that confidence now. He played like 90 minutes constantly. He had a little bit of surgery at the end of the season to fix completely. It was always planned. It was the second part of the operation he needed on his ankle. And great move for him. Obviously hasn't been confirmed yet. Presumably that'll be in the morning. But good move for all parties, I think. I think Leicester have done well there to get a player like Winks in the Championship. This is an England international himself, or he certainly was. I wouldn't bet against him if he really has a terrific season in the Championship and the following season has a good one back in the Premier League, maybe being in and around the England setup again. He's still, only 27 maybe now, I think. Good move for Winksy. And he had some good times, especially the season him and Sissoko in the midfield, they got to a Champions League final. I think people underestimate what a good season he had. Just unfortunate towards the end. Kind of had some poor displays, had some injury issues, and just kind of fell out of favour, and obviously became a little bit of a scapegoat as well, which happens. It happens in football, and now's a chance for a reset for him. And I think 10 million is a good deal for Spurs as well. So that's Winks heading off. That's Maddison coming in. Vicario obviously coming in as well. Guillermo Vicario spoke very well. I read a piece out, some of the quotes that he said, but actually, if you watch the full video, there's even more in it. He speaks very well, very interesting character, good English, good communicator. He's going to be very good with that back line. You can see it, and the way he talks to the team. And again, like I say, no mention unless it was chopped out of speaking of Hugo Lloris. So it really does feel like he is going to be the man that's going to step into. I was going to say his gloves. He can't really step into gloves. He will take his gloves. He's not going to take his gloves. It's a terrible way of putting it. It's going to be the new number one. Yeah, so what next? Obviously, defence has to be dealt with now. The feeling that I get is that Edmond Tapsoba is the main target, as the top target as centre-back. But, there's two ways of looking at this. There is one aspect of, a little bit like David Raya and Vicario himself, that if they can't get the price down on Tapsoba, then Mickey van der Ven is a very, very good, another young centre-back on the market, the Wolfsburg defender. So you could say that they can't get him, they turn to him. But who knows? Depending on the departures at Spurs, there's no reason really, if they were to be able to make sure to get players out the door, of going for both. Again, a lot depends on the Tapsoba value. As I said in the last video, I keep hearing real kind of differing views on this figure. That there's been a £25 million fee mentioned or valuation, but then I also hear far higher than that as well. So it'd be good to kind of nail down exactly what Spurs are expecting, what Bayer Leverkusen are expecting for him. But it's certainly, everything I'm hearing seems to be that he's the top target. But we shall see how that goes, because get him through the door as well. And, I explained it in yesterday's one. Very good player, bit of pace, very good on the ball, very composed, good in the air. A real kind of fits the Postecoglou system perfectly. But also, as well, Van der Ven does as well. Got pace. He's probably more left-sided than Tapsoba is, because he can also play at left-back. But like I say, you can't rule out entirely them going for both. Like I've said before, Clement Longley is there as an option if they need it as well. And I kind of was told, you'll have heard me say way back probably, that the idea was if they do get two centre-backs, they'd like to get a younger one and a more experienced one. But then I guess it's one of those, isn't it? If you were to get a 24 and a 22-year-old, then maybe that is when you're going to rely on someone like Eric Dier as the experience head. I'm not saying he's starting before people get very angry, but you still have experience in the squad. On Eric Dier, I should also say that I've kind of been hearing bits and pieces about him today as well. From what I understand, and again, this is going to make some people who don't like him unhappy, but I understand he's got absolutely no intention of leaving Spurs this summer. It's not in his plans. He's really looking forward to next season, from what I understand. Really excited about working with Postecoglou. He's fully fit now. He's been really working hard throughout this break to get ready to try to impress Postecoglou. So, yeah, certainly it seems like from his point of view, or from the player's point of view, isn't looking to leave Spurs. Obviously, it depends on what offers come in, whether Spurs change their mind on that. But like I say, I go back to my previous point. If they were to sign a 24-year-old and 22-year-old, then maybe you do think that Eric Dier as an experienced head is someone to have in and around them. And look, I know everyone's got their opinions on Eric Dier. Personally, knowing that he had the injury throughout last season, which he started the season quite well, but then obviously from the injury onwards was not so great. Whether he is different in a fully fit mode in a Postecoglou system, it's difficult to know. But obviously you've got the other names who are probably more likely to go. You've got Davinson Sanchez, you've got Joe Rodon, maybe even Japhet Tanganga. And like I say, I've said this a million times now, that Spurs' plan is to get two central defenders in, but it depends on them going out the door, players going out the door to make sure that happens. So, as I said again, if you're thinking that every player bar Romero is leaving the club in central defence, it's just not realistic. I said that in one of the previous videos and I had people in the comments going, yes it is, that's what an overhaul is, and I get that, but it doesn't. I'm trying to think of any other club where they got rid of every centre-back bar one. I don't think it is realistic. And if it ends up being Eric Dier, personally, I don't feel like as a squad rotation, that would be the worst thing in the world. Someone who's there with a little bit more experience. But look, I know people get angry when you mention certain players. I know Eric Dier is unfortunately has become part of that club, I think. But look, if he's fully fit and motivated and really wants to play for Postecoglou, we shall swiftly find out what Postecoglou wants to do with him as well. And that's probably the most important thing. Like I say, it's all very well Eric Dier wanting to desperately stay, but if Postecoglou, gives him no indication he wants him to stay, then that will have to change. And you do wonder again whether there's a conversation that's already been had there or not. As I say, we'll know pretty swiftly exactly what the case will be with him. But yeah, just kind of giving you a bit of background there. So we shall see with the defence. And then other than that, as I said, they'd like to bring in a young winger if possible. And also then it's about replacing players that are heading out the door, or players that unexpected ones as well. Because you could look around the pitch, you could say, let's say Højbjerg. If Højbjerg, there's been a noise about him potentially moving on. If he were to move on, then you would definitely need, I think, to bring in another central midfielder. I don't think, especially with Bentancur being out maybe till September, possibly October, that's his view. I think he said 2 or 3 months. Then I think you need someone else to come in. And then also maybe you look at the fullback situation. Maybe not so much on the right, but on the left you could say if Sessegnon were to say head out on loan and Perisic were to go, is Davies and Udogie enough? It might be, or maybe you just want a little bit more cover there. But then maybe if you bring in Van de Ven and he can play left back as well, you're backing yourself up there. You're backing yourself there. But yeah, really good start to pre-season, if that's what close season they call it, don't they? To have 2 very important positions filled, your new number 1 going forward for the future, and your obviously Hugo Lloris has to go first. So technically, argue, I don't know, is he current number 1 Vicario? I don't know. That's different ways to look at it. But either way, the goalkeeper for the long-term future and your attacking midfielder for the long-term future as well. It's been a very positive start. And funnily enough, in a time when we just, there's a real frustration of just pay the fee, get it done. There's an irony that both deals are incredible deals as well. Not that I'm sure, most fans really care about that aspect of it and whether it's good business or whatever. But as I always say, it does also allow you to have more money to go towards other signings. So it can only really be a benefit when you actually get it done, of course. But yeah, it's really good. It's like I've said before in the previous video, there's a real kind of belief in data now as well. I feel like Spurs are properly starting to use that. I think I said this in the last video. They've always been a sense that they've got really good analysts there at the club, but maybe it was about the data that was being brought into them was not maybe good enough to match them. There was some talk about that. And obviously there's been an improvement in that. And I think we can see it with these signings. Obviously Maddison is one that I told you in the last video everyone wanted at the club, from Daniel Levy, Paratici, who's still involved in this consultancy basis, Postecoglou, of course, the most important of all, Gabinini and players as well. But also, with Vicario, there's a lot of data analysis in this. And I think with the centre-back scenario, by the sounds of it, there's a lot of data analysis that's gone into picking the right ones for Postecoglou. And I think Postecoglou is very big on the data side of things as well. So yeah, it's all part of that. So it's the future. It's the way forward. It's the right way to do it. But yeah, it's quite exciting. It's yeah, I'm just intrigued to see who the winger will be, because I'd imagine if it's not going to be a Harvey Barnes, if they don't feel that a deal's possible there, you'd imagine that will also be a data-led transfer. And that will be someone that fits exactly the Postecoglou mould, which is someone that can run, attack, press, have a bit of pace about them as well. And interesting, Postecoglou said in a recent interview, or an interview that I transcribed recently, that he likes to have different kinds of options as wingers so that he can tweak the tactics for each match. So he likes maybe a winger that is pacey and can get in behind. He likes a winger that can score goals. He likes a winger that can dribble past people. He likes to have, obviously if they've got all of those, then great, but he doesn't mind having ones that have those different elements to it so he can mix and match, and ones that maybe will also come back and defend. You know, Pedro Porro, maybe you could think of him and being classed as that kind of winger, and he could play that. So yeah, I'm fascinated to see kind of what comes out of the box when it comes to the winger, and how data-led that will be. Yeah, interesting to see. But as I say, it's just quite exciting. It is, after the end of the season, which, let's be honest, was pants. The whole season was pretty much pants. There's professional for you. That'll be my headline in one of my pieces when I'm back to work tomorrow. Spurs, pants. But it's just, it feels more hopeful. I know it's the hope that kills you, especially with Spurs, but obviously you need to kind of get clarity on the Harry Kane situation, maybe more so from him or even Postecoglou when he starts doing. I wonder whether we'll get a press conference before the tour. Maybe. I'd hope they do. Obviously, that'll be a major talking point. But yeah, it just feels like, okay, we're starting to move in the right direction now. Obviously, the director of football position still to be filled. I'm intrigued to see what happens with that, mainly because of the Paratici situation as well. But again, I'm kind of lapsing into stuff in the last video. I'm going to kind of probably end it there. This was never going to be a sprawling long video. It was just pretty much going to try and talk about the news of the last 24 hours. And it's getting hot in here. And with this light, you can probably see all of my sweatiness. So yeah, like I say, if there's anything you felt I didn't expand on there, please do go, and you haven't seen the previous video, it'll be because I spoke about it at length in the last video. We talked about Vicario, we talked about Kane and the Bayern Munich links in real kind of detail in the last one, and yeah, various things I spoke about. The Paratici situation, if you've just listened to me talking about him being involved in consultancy role, I'm like, what? When did that happen? Listen to the last video and it explains all and the legality of it and how it is absolutely fine within the rules, but I obviously also give my opinion on it, and plenty in it. So yeah, that's somewhere around on YouTube, and I'm sure, I don't know whether it recommends it after this. I don't even know how it all works. You know what I'm like. I'm so basic. This light that my daughter bought me for Father's Day is like the most fancy thing that I've ever put in my videos. They're just me sitting down and talking. I don't ask you to do anything else other than, if you're here and you watch it, fantastic. That's great. That's very much appreciated. And if you don't, I completely understand why. It's just a bloke sitting on his sofa having a chat about all things Tottenham Hotspur. But there you go. Right, I am going to head off now. I was going to say short and sharp. I guess half an hour. It's probably not short and sharp by some YouTube videos standards, but hopefully we covered plenty within that. By the time this uploads, it's going to be very late at night. By the time it uploads, maybe something more will have happened. I'm not going to do another video tomorrow. I really don't want to. I'm supposed to be playing football tomorrow night, so I really don't want to have to either, my regular Thursday night football. But I digress. I need to head off. As always, stay healthy, stay safe, look after yourselves, and I shall catch you later. Goodbye.